Aviation is a very cyclical industry. We've seen it after 9/11, the recession in 2008, and most recently the pandemic. My mission here at Cashflow on the Fly podcast is to arm pilots with all the tools and knowledge they need to achieve financial freedom through real estate. This is your host, Sach Bernhardt, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Cashflow on the Fly podcast. I'm extremely excited today. If you don't know who Steve is, and for those of you who do not know who Steve is, he is an airline pilot. He is the author of the book Building an Empire, Failing Our Way to Millions. He is an international speaker, has shared the stage with Brad Lee, Ed Mylett, Jordan Belfort, and James Lawrence. Many people know him by the Iron Cowboy. He's a dude that 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 different states, right? It's totally mind-blowing, dude. I don't know how can someone even do that. On top of that, the reason that Steve and that he resonates a lot with me is because he's a real estate investor and coach. And in fact, he also has his own podcast called High Stakes with Steven Rosenberg. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it, bud.
Dude, that's awesome. You have an interesting story for the audience that may not know your story. Can you please tell us your background?
Yeah, sure. Born and raised in Los Angeles and started flying in junior college. Got a job flying cargo and small planes, Cessna 310s and stuff like that up and down the West Coast. Got hired with an airline out of St. Louis. My first was not the best company, but it's probably a good thing because it made everybody want to get out of that company. I won't say the name, but I got hired with Continental Airlines. I was 25 years old. So I would have retired number 2 had we never merged. Got hired, went out to Guam. I was flying out in Guam, all over the South Pacific. I was flying a 727, or I was on the panel on the 727. And ended up flying the 737 out there. And about August of 2001, my wife and I decided we'd head back to the mainland. We were out there for about three and a half years. Really loved it, enjoyed that lifestyle, traveled all over Asia, South Pacific, all that. And the whole concept pre 9/11 is that when you get hired with a major, you're good, you're done. You know, nothing can go wrong. And that's what I thought. I'm like, I'm 25, I'm good. I can relax now, which was obviously a very big mistake. And 9/11 hit. My stuff was on the boat coming from Guam. And 2 days after, I got a furlough notice that said, hey, you're on the list of 1,200 guys. And every month we're just going to keep chopping until we feel that we don't need to chop anymore. And obviously 9/11 hit, which was something that never happened to us in the US, tragedy. And then all of a sudden, now my life is severely affected because of it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, why am I getting furloughed? And you talk about a punch to the face and to your ego. And all of a sudden, now I realize, okay, shit's getting real very quickly. Guys are getting furloughed. Guys are going to South America. They're going to Europe, Asia. They're doing everything they can to fly. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not running. I'm just not going to do that. Of course, I was still employed, but every month they were chopping numbers. And so if there was another tragedy, I knew I was gone. So I was going to race against time. So I started looking and go, okay, what do people do that try to be successful? Because I had no idea. And it seemed that a lot of people that were successful were tied to real estate. Now, I had flown with guys in the past that they had rentals and stuff, some good, some total shit shows, but it was a variation. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. YouTube wasn't around, so I had to go to the library. I had to get a library card, and I had to rent books. And I read a book a week on real estate. Everything I could find. I learned all the different creative and buying and holding and all the other stuff. And I learned that there was certain things that I thought I'd be good at, some things I knew I wouldn't be good at. I got mentored. I paid for some coaches. I went out into the real estate world, and I got my ass kicked. I got ripped off. I got lied to. I got cheated on, you name it. And it happened to me. And I realized that unlike the airline industry where things are and systematized, it's not that way in real estate. If you are weak, you will get stomped on and they will kick you in the face every single time and not even think twice and take your money while you're down.
And these people that you're referring to is like tenants or just everyone?
You name it. Contractors, realtors, tenants. It was everybody. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a way. Like, I see people that are successful. I'm doing something wrong. And slowly, I stopped getting knocked down as many times. I stopped getting ripped off because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not the dumbest. And I started realizing, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. So I started having some success and started buying portfolios of properties. I ended up buying an apartment complex in Houston, Texas. Did pretty well. We sold that property, me and my business partner, and we just started getting better. And we started getting better. And real estate has an interesting way of whenever you think you're smart, it will recorrect that for you very quickly, like a wrecking ball through your life. So we decided we were buying single family properties at the time after we sold the apartment. And we had about 30 or 40 houses. And that's when real estate reality came back like a wrecking ball to let us know we bought the wrong properties. So what ended up happening is we ended up building a management company to manage our shithole properties that we should have never bought. We created a company and we went to a business coach. And we said, look, here's what we've done. I'm an airline pilot. He works in the IT department. We don't know anything about business, but we've got all these properties and they're not going well. And so basically he tells us that, yeah, there is a business here and you can be very successful, but you two guys are not the smartest guys on earth and you'll be bankrupt in 6 months if you keep doing what you're doing.
Wow.
So we hire him. Now we have a coach right on the spot. And because I'm like, okay, you want to get better in training, you have a simulator instructor. You play football, you have a football coach. If you want to get better in business, you get a business coach. Made sense to me. So we hire this guy. We create a property management company. We take that company from inception and we scaled it to over 1,000 properties in 3 major cities. And over 7 years, we stayed with that guy every single week. We went in and got coached and got our asses kicked. And we learned how to be successful business people. And over time, we became very successful in the real estate property management world. We eventually ended up selling that company to a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. I became a vice president for that firm, doing stuff with them. And the whole time I was still flying. I had my airline career. I came within 30 numbers from the bottom of getting furloughed.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say it was worse than getting furloughed because I had a lot of friends that got furloughed, but it sucked, man. I was pushed out of Houston. I was up in Newark. I was in Cleveland. I was in crash pads. And every day I kept waiting for that letter to come saying basically it's your turn. And so again, I'm never going to say it's worse, but that was a very scary feeling, but it made me realize that if I don't take care of myself, no one else will. And what I learned, a lot of people ask me after 9/11 and then COVID happened and people are like, what's the difference between you then and the difference of you now? I'm like, I took massive action and I never looked back. And a lot of it was wrong, but I made a lot of smart choices because of my mistakes, which is opposite in flying, right? You don't want to make mistakes. But I learned how to mind my own business and build something that can never be taken away from me. Because I remember after 9/11, I told myself this happened because I got lazy. I got lazy and I allowed myself to think I was smarter because I was a pilot, because I had a career. And that was the worst thing I could have done. I thought, you know what? I put myself in this position by being lazy. Being a pilot is something we all strive to be. What makes us think that we should stop trying to be better because we have a job? We're just employees for someone. We can be downsized. We can be merged. Anything could happen to us. You lose your medical. And then what do you have? Yeah. We're just employees. Now, I love my job. I love what I do. I love flying. But I also know it's a job. And I know that at any moment it can be taken away from me. My real estate portfolio, my companies that I own, people that I coach, no one can take that away from me because I've created it. I own it. So that was the big difference. I tell people, and look, I've got buddies that were almost getting furloughed with me back on 9/11 that are like, man, you think the company's going to be okay during COVID? I'm like, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I put in the work. So for people out there, I would say put in the work because you never know when it will be ripped away from you. And if you don't think it will, you are sadly mistaken because when it happens, you won't have time to fix it is what I've learned.
Yeah. Dude, I think you're exactly right. And I think life has a way of showing you the lesson. If you get complacent and you think with the mindset that you had prior to you shifted and started getting good in business, think, hey man, I made it. I'm at the majors. This is it. I think life will show you something to remind you, dude, this is not it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. It's tough, right? And look, I tell people, look, I'm not the best freaking pilot. I'm not the smartest guy, but I have drive and I know my why because I've touched that hot stove of getting that furlough notice. And I remember thinking to myself, not only did I put myself in that position, but how selfish was I to put my family in that position? because I got lazy, because I let my ego, because people told me, oh man, you're an airline pilot. You're good. You're golden. That was just ego and pride. That really had
Mhm.
that wasn't reality. That was me listening to other people feed my ego. And a lot of people are so driven by money and they get so wrapped around the axle with flying and this and that. And I'm like, that is the wrong way to live your life, man. From real estate, I know some very successful people in real estate. Money is just a tool. And
Right.
so when you work for that paycheck as a pilot, you realize you're no better than anyone else. You just may have a couple more zeros behind your name, but other than that, there's nothing more. But when you work in real estate, I always tell people your job or your business will make you rich. Real estate will make you wealthy, and it'll
Right.
make you generationally wealthy to live well beyond you. That's selfless. Having a job is selfish, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude, I 100% agree with you. I'm feeling, I don't know how I'm feeling right now, man, because I was looking at my biceps and I thought it was big, but then after talking to you for all this time, I'm just like, damn, I gotta go hit the gym after this podcast.
Dude, I get
Um,
up every day, 4 or 5 a.m., and I go. I land on a layover, I go. The difference with, I think, a lot of people is they think it's a choice. It's not a choice. The choice is yes or no. It's not a choice for me. When I'm on a layover, I go. People are like, oh, that's not how you do. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'm going. Like, that's the deal. That's the contract I made with myself. That's how important it is to me. I don't talk about working out. When I'm at the gym, I don't talk about flying. When I'm at work, I don't talk about real estate. I compartmentalize that stuff, but I'm fanatical when I'm in that zone and focused in what I'm doing.
I love that, man. I love that about you because I think that's the key to success is being in the moment and being whatever you're doing and just
Yeah,
going all in. If
100%.
you're doing one thing and you're focused on another thing on another space, I don't think you're going to be truly successful. Uh,
Agreed.
what got me curious to what you were saying. When you're flying, I'm sure a lot of people do. A lot of people do you fly with the same people often, or
Yeah,
just
so
some that don't know? You're like, oh,
I
I
fly
see
the
your videos.
777. So it's a smaller base, smaller group of people. So you kind of get to know people. So, a lot of people, they know of me, or they know that I'm that guy that does something other than flying. So that, or they know I put on these big events or I speak on these big stages. So they know, but I think a lot of them don't really want to know, because then they've got to start asking questions. And when they start asking questions, then they're like, shit, what am I doing with my life? I think a
Right.
lot of them, and I don't talk about it. I do my own thing. Actually, what I do is when I go into other countries, I actually have clients that I coach. So I've got
Really?
real
Wow.
estate clients and I have business clients. So when I was doing the Sydney, Australia route, I did a couple tours speaking around Australia. So I started getting clients down there. So when I'd be on a layover, I'd go coach these clients. When I go to Amsterdam and other places, I've got people that I know from real estate and from coaching. So I try to be productive. You could call it luck, I don't know, but it just happens that every time I'm in a city, I end up knowing someone or someone knows me, and I start talking with them, and that's all about connections.
Have you always been driven like this, or do you think that there is something that happened along the way that obviously there, and I can say that from being on these overnights with other pilots, not everyone does what you're doing, right? Or goes to the gym. As soon as they get to an overnight, they go to the room, watch TV, and wait until the plane is ready to head back. Do you think you had always, and I find that in very few people that are like ready to go, right? So the plane lands, hey man, what can I do here? Here you go.
I've always, I think everyone is born with a certain personality, a certain drive. There's what's called a disc profile. We're all a variation of certain personalities, and some get fed and they grow, and some don't get fed and it dies. I love hearing people all the time. They always tell me like, "Oh, when I was young, I was just like you." I'm like, "Why aren't you now? What's your excuse?" I don't care. I don't care what you were, right? That's in your mind. If you
Right.
were that person, you would be that person today. I don't give a shit if you're telling me like, oh, I used to be in shape, but I hurt my back. I'm like, so you eat Burger King? That's your excuse for eating shitty? So I've always been driven, but I've learned, like anything, to fine tune who I am to become better. You're either, look, and again, you could say I'm full of it, whatever you want to say, but you're either getting better or you're getting worse every single day. Your bank account is either growing or it is shrinking. That's just how it is, right? And that's based on who you become. So I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm nothing like that, but I believe that every day when we wake up, we make a decision. I'm either going to be better than I was yesterday or I'm going to be worse. You're never the same, because if you don't make a decision, you made a decision and it's not to be better. So I think I've always been driven, to answer your question, but I think I've accelerated that. I think I've gone from fifth gear to seventh gear. When you're around people like Brad Lee and Ed Mylett and they're flying their private jets and they're like, oh, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm an airline pilot. They're like, oh, that's cute. What do you make? 300-400 grand a year? That's cute. That doesn't even pay my jet fuel. It just puts things into perspective. There's nothing, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a pilot. I love what I do, but I'm not at the top of the heat. I'm not the big dog. You're around these other people and you're like, holy shit, man, I could be better. It's a choice, but you could be better.
It's just a small tweak in mindset, man. I was just in a mastermind in Miami last weekend, and the last day we went on a yacht cruising around the bay, and it's just amazing to see the houses that are there, right? They're just absolutely impressive. It's something out of this world to see. And I was talking to one of the guys, and I said, dude, I wish I wish that was my house and I could live there. I wonder what people that live in those houses do. And he looks at me and says, nobody lives in the house. That's their vacation house. And that just took it to another level. Here I am thinking that's their house. And he says, dude, that's not even their house. That's just a vacation house. That's like the extra house. That impressive fucking unicorn house you're seeing there is the spare one. So it's just a change in the mindset. I'm curious about this company you sold to a private equity firm. As you're scaling a company, what are some of the critical steps that you think that the people that succeed versus the people that fail don't follow?
Sure. And just to clarify, it was a venture capital, not a PE firm, but same concept. So one of the biggest challenges, and this is what I've learned and most business people will be, is it's not about you. If you own a business, it's never about you. It's about the systems, the structure, and the procedures. The more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable the business is. When the venture capital firm bought us, one of the reasons they did is we were so fanatical about our systems, about our structure, about our procedures, like an airline, right? One pilot calls in sick, the airline doesn't shut down. One employee quits, we don't shut down because we're systems specific. Employees make the company better. So the reason they liked us so much, they said, how did you guys create this company? 60% of our company was running with virtual assistants in Mexico. Wow. They were like, we've never seen this before. Like, how did you guys do this? We're like, I'm an airline pilot. I took my mindset and looked at what airlines do, and we structured it. We had an SOP, we had checklists, we had expanded. Think about it. If you look at a business, what is the most successful business model that runs 24/7 every minute of the day is an airline?
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't you just create your business to run like that? Now, as we all know, pilots, we have inside knowledge information to take our knowledge and structure a business the way airlines run. So that's what we did. So one of the reasons that we were so successful and the reason we got such a high multiplier for our company is because we weren't tied to it. Nobody, ego and pride is what makes people's businesses small because they think they should be the most important. They think it's about them. It's never about you. It's about the team. It's about the structure. It's about procedures. Look, if you told me, hey, Steve, I've got a business. And I said, okay, how many hours a day or days a week or weeks a month could you step away from your business and let it run without your involvement? And you're like, never. Then you don't own a business, you own a job. And it's probably a low paying job when you factor in how much time. The definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you, and it has a sale date. That's how I was taught by one of my mentors. Now, if you break down that conversation, a commercial, profitable enterprise is something that makes money, right? That's monetization of your business. That's sales and marketing. People don't understand sales and marketing, right? So that's number one, monetization of your business. Running without you is the systemization of your business, right? Policies, procedures, checklists. Could I sit in your business tomorrow, sit down at a desk and do that person's job without ever having to talk to you and have KPI metrics, key performance indicators that can tell you, the owner, whether or not I'm doing my job? If not, it's not a job. It's not a business, it's a job. So commercial, profitable enterprise that runs without you. This goes into systems and scalability. What is the training to bring on new employees? Look, when we go through training, we go through sim training, we do all this stuff. Then we have IOE, right? And then we've got recurrent. Most businesses have nothing like that.
Right.
So what happens? They get nervous when somebody says, I'm going to quit. And they're like, oh shit, don't quit. I'll give you everything what you need. But if you had a system that could bring someone up to speed through training and scalability, and you're like, you know what, go pound sand. We don't need you. We'll replace you in 2 weeks. We'll have someone in your place. That's scalability. Could you do it? We were in 3 different markets. We were in Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, and we were about to open up in Austin before we were purchased. And we were looking at selling our licensing rights in Australia because of our systemization. Now, the reason you have to have a sale date on it is not because you want to sell it, but because you have to come up with a date that this will be a finished product. When we get in an airplane, we know our destination. We know what time we're going to get there. We know how much fuel we're going to have. We know the arrival time. We know everything. Most people start a business, they don't know anything. They just get in the air and start flying. So what happens? They run out of gas, or they basically die with the business because they don't have that destination. So one of the first, and I coach a lot of businesses, one of the first things I ask them is, what's the sale date? They're like, oh, I'm never going to sell my business. I'm like, that wasn't my question. My question is, when is it finished so that it's not running without you, so that it's wrapped up? Because in order for it to have a sale date means it has to be a saleable asset. If it's going to be a saleable asset, means you cannot be involved in the day-to-day operations.
Dude, that's awesome. That was going to be my next question. I heard you say, so I don't know where this was, but I heard you said about when you're growing a company, you need to have the sellable date. And it's because of exactly what you just touched on. Even if you don't intend to sell it,
absolutely,
you still need to have sellable date.
Because you need, look, you got to have that destination. I tell people all the time, if you were to watch a basketball game and you sat down and there's no score being kept and there's no timer and guys are just running back and forth, hitting the thing, after a while, you're gonna be like, that's fucking stupid. I don't even know who's winning. I don't know when the game's going to be over. I don't know anything. But when there's a timer and it starts getting towards the end of the game, what happens? Everyone starts working harder because they want to win the game. If you said, hey, I'm going to dinner at 8 p.m. and you know the place that you're going, that's the goal. That's the destination. You got to back that out. Okay, that means I've got to leave my house at 7:15, which means I got to be home by 6:30 and in the shower, which means I got to leave work at 5. So you back out the strategy. You know the goal is dinner at 8 p.m. because you have reservations. I ask people all the time, where are you going with this? What does it look like? I don't know. I'm like, what's fucking stupid? You're just on the freeway driving. You don't even know where you're going to exit or how you're going to exit your business. So you're just going to die with it. And that's what a lot of people do. And look, I was that same person. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've made these mistakes and I've learned through a lot of hard work and a lot of trials and a lot of ego checking. Building a business is not about you. It's about a team. And it should never be about you and showing how smart you are. Nobody cares how smart you are. It's not about what you think. It's always got to be what's best for the business and what's best for the results.
Dude, I love that. Do you have somewhere, I saw that, are you invested in like a roofing company, or are you in different type of niches?
Yeah, I'm not invested in a roofing company, but I coach a lot of roofers and roofing companies.
What kind of angle do you coach them? Just in general business, or is there something specific that they're looking for?
It's business in general. So I just had a big mastermind here in Houston. I think it was a total of 15 people, 21 total with plus ones. 6 of those were roofing businesses doing anywhere between 1 mil to 25 mil a year in revenue. All different. Then I had a couple of real estate investors. I had fencing companies, a couple of property management companies. And what everybody realizes is we're all the same. Our businesses, whether you're United Airlines, Southwest Airlines, it doesn't matter. Whether you're Bernhardt Capital, all businesses run under the same chassis. And you have marketing that makes the phone ring. Sales answers the phone, converts them to clients. Operations processes it, gets that person to buy over and over again. And then accounting makes sure everyone's paid. Somewhere in that hierarchy, there are blind spots and there are weaknesses. And it starts from the top, it starts from the leader, and it pushes its way down. And everyone there was a guy there was a father-son team. They've been in business for 32 years. And it's not cheap, right? Investing a lot of money to be here because they get to meet Brad Lee and they get to meet all these high-level speakers. And I'm like, why are you here? And he's like, dude, we're stuck. We're stuck at 25 mil. We want to get to 40 and we can't, I don't know how to do it. Everybody has that part of that breaking point. And I think you're the guy that can help us get there. And I'm like, I don't know shit about roofing, but I know it's in your head because that's the only problem. Because you know how to roof. You're in 5 states. You know what you're doing. It's the mindset. And that's where it begins. And that's the biggest challenge for people. So to answer your question, I work with a lot of roofing companies. I work with syndicators in real estate. Obviously, because of my background in real estate, I invest with a lot of these guys. I'm a big believer of leveraging other people. And that's where the success comes.
Is there a business that you will say, like when you're looking at a business, and do you think there's a ceiling on that specific business, or do you think there are businesses that are less scalable, or maybe a niche that you will say that particular industry is not really feasible for growth or something like that?
I think yes, there are some, but those are more people that have jobs. I'll give you an example. And this is a weird example, but Tom Brady, right? He doesn't have a business. If he doesn't show up to play, he doesn't get paid. Now, there's businesses obviously derived from him, but he has a job. Actors have a job. So the question is the business scalable? That's the question. Is it leverageable and scalable? If you can't leverage it and you can't scale it, then it is not a business. Not to say you can't make a shitload of money, because Tom Brady and all these other actors, they can. But is it scalable? You can grow tomatoes and make 50 grand a month on subscription models of how to grow tomatoes. I've actually seen someone who's done that. That's why I bring that up. So everything is scalable, but you've got to go, okay, is there a sales? Is there a market for it? Can we convert them to clients? Can we get them to buy over and over again? And can we make sure we pay them? If the answer is yes, all you got to do is start realizing that you're not the most important person in the equation. You got to start pulling yourself out of those conversations.
Yeah, I love it. Dude, you have wholesale houses, you flip houses, and you flipped apartment buildings. Is there one that you prefer over another one?
Now I would say I prefer less involvement by me.
Regardless of what it is.
Regardless for what it is, yes. I think that it depends on where you are in life, right? I think there's different stages for everybody. I started wholesaling back when I didn't have any money and I didn't know what to do. And honestly, I was a little scared to buy a rental property because I knew every month they were chopping names. I didn't even know if I was going to stay in Houston because I was from Los Angeles and I only moved there because of my job. So now I'm like, well, shit, if I don't have a job, why do I stay in Houston? What I learned is these were all things that was the Chicken Little in me. I was just afraid, to be honest. But I did learn that communicators are the wealthiest people on the planet. They make the most money. So I started focusing on how to be a communicator and how to negotiate. So I learned how to be a master negotiator, which was wholesaling. I made enough money doing that I bought an apartment complex with the money that I made more money than I would have ever made flying airplanes, and did very well. But it was a job, because as soon as I stopped working, so did the wholesale money. So I was like, okay, this is not scalable. What's so funny is guys that I went into partnership in this apartment complex, and they were like, man, we want to do what you're doing. Like, you're making 20 grand every time you wholesale a property. I'm like, man, that's a job. I want to learn what you're doing, creating wealth, owning apartment complexes. And they're like, this is boring. This is like a slug, watching a slug go down the highway. It's consistent and it works, but it's boring. I'm like, yeah, but it's running without you. So you can have 50 slugs going down the highway and you're fine. They're like, well, yeah, that's true. So different perspectives. So wholesaling was a reason and a means to an end for me.
Yeah. And I want to touch on that because a lot of pilots that I have a wholesaling company. And so, and we scale that company. We have employees in that company, and we move a lot of properties every single month. And a lot of pilots that I was flying with prior to me leaving the airlines, they wanted to get into wholesaling. And I will tell them, like, dude, you're just going to be replacing one job for the other. And what you want to be doing is apartments, right? Put your money in something that is passive, that can give you cash flow, and that you don't have to be involved in the operation. If you want to start wholesaling, that's going to eat up your days off. You're going to be stressing. You're not going to enjoy the time with your family. So it's not the right thing to do. So then I like that you brought that up, because that's exactly it, man. It's just another job. The apartments is pretty slow, but it's the sure way of getting wealthy.
Yeah, it works. Look, they both work, but one of them, you are the integral part. It only works because you do. Apartments work because you're using massive leverage. You're buying an apartment complex. You're leveraging the ability to finance so much of it. You know, when you're wholesaling, there's pieces of the puzzle. You've got to find the right property. You've got to find the right buyer. They've got to be able to get funding. All of these stars have to collide at the same time for you to get your money. It's a very high emotional thing. There's a lot of touch points, a lot of conversations. Now, yeah, did I make money? I was doing 20 grand every time, 20, 25,000 every time I did that. So yes, you can make money on it, but you could also just work harder as a pilot. Now, at the time, I
Right.
wasn't making that kind of money back in 2002 to be able to make that much money as I did. So to me, it was a jumpstart, and I was willing to put in the work because it was the goal, because I wanted to own wealth, and owning wealth is apartments, not wholesaling properties.
Dude, I love it. Dude, an entrepreneur and high performer like you, can you tell me a little bit about your schedule? How are you able to stay jacked, keep up with all your businesses, go flying, do your podcast with Satch on a Monday at 11 a.m., and still be able to do everything and be with your family?
Yeah, I'm very focused. I'm very dialed in. I'm like a laser beam. When you look at my calendar, I live on my calendar, right? I have an assistant. She controls my calendar, right? And I have learned, like, my assistant, she's a virtual assistant, been with me for 5 years. I couldn't live without her. She books my flights for me, my hotels. She handles my calendar. I leverage, it's a business. I leverage her as part of my business to be able to take away the little things for me. So a virtual assistant is one of the best things. I got so good at it that I actually created a company helping other people get virtual assistants because I got so successful at it. But what I realized is I've got to be focused on the one thing that I'm good at. Everything else I suck at. That's okay. That's why I have team members on my team. I'm good at one thing. So I'm very focused on my calendar and on my day, and I do what I say I'm going to do. If I have a meeting, dude, I've been at 2 a.m. in Tokyo and been on a coaching call, and they're like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Tokyo." "What time is it?" 2 a.m. They're like, "Oh, we don't have to do that." I'm like, "No, we agreed to a time. I agreed to it. I'm doing it." That's how it
I love
is.
it, man.
It's not,
Yeah.
we don't have a choice, right? When we commit to something, when someone invests in me for me to coach them, I'm there for them. I committed to doing that. It's not what I want to do. It has nothing to do with my opinion and my feelings. That's what I agreed to do. So I step up and do it. Now, I'm also very selective with my time. I've had to learn to say no. Saying no is one of the biggest things successful people do. If you look at all successful people that are out there, they've learned the power of saying no. Now, when I say no, someone says, like, "Hey, Steve, could I talk to you?" Me saying no could maybe having my assistant talk to them. I
Right.
said no to me, but I didn't say no to them. I'll still get them what they need, but do I really need to be the one talking to them? And
Right.
saying no, if you're saying yes to everything, you are saying no to other things. You just don't realize what you're saying no to until it's too late.
Dude, what would you say is the difference between people that succeed? That there's a lot of people that want to get it started in real estate, and there's people that succeed, and there's people that never do anything. What do you think is the biggest differentiator?
One word: action. That's all it is. People have this in their head that everything's got to be perfect. No, it's not the right time. And it's not, I'm like, nobody cares. Like, I tell people all the time, you're not as important as you think you are. I hate to tell you this. Nobody gives a shit. Like, people tell me all the time, they'll call me and be like, "Oh, I'm thinking of getting into real estate." I fly with them. I'm thinking this. And look, I'll listen to them and I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, blah, blah." But when I'm done, I don't care. I've got my own
Right.
shit going on.
Right.
I can't care more than you. Look, I would much rather someone take action and mess up and go, "You know what? I learned that," than trying to prepare. I tell people all the time, if you had a 3-year-old daughter and you came home and you found out that your daughter was abducted, which I hope that doesn't happen to anyone, but if it does, would you try to create the perfect plan to go find her? Or would you be like fucking on fire out that door doing everything you could? It's not planned. You didn't have a structure. You took action.
Right.
Think about that. What are you not taking action on in your life? And that's an excuse. Look, I coach people all the time. They'll give me all the reasons. I'm like, "Are you done? Like, now do you want to tell me the real reason you're not fucking doing it?" Because we both know you're just feeding me a lie. Tell me, you know what? At least have the guts to tell me why
Right.
you're not doing it. And mostly it's fear, but they go like, "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. It doesn't change my life. I'm changing your life by making you take action. So to answer your question, just take action. It could be wrong. It doesn't matter. I guarantee you, you are going to make mistakes. You are going to lose money. You are going to look foolish. All of those things are going to happen. And you know what? Nobody will care. And as soon as you stop caring and you focus more on taking action is when you'll actually start seeing more success.
Dude, I love it. We're getting to the end here of the podcast. I'm just gonna ask you the last Three questions. When you're not doing helping other business owners scale their business, doing any masterminds, what does Steve Rosenberg like to do as a hobby?
I go to the gym. Obviously, I work out. I love spending time with my family. Again, focused on the time when I'm home and it's time for me to shut it down. I take my phone, I put it away. I'm done with my phone. Because if it's on me, I'll start looking and texting. And so I just put it away. My son, and you may have heard the story, he bought his first rental property at 14 years old. I just got him a motorcycle. I love riding motorcycles. I'm getting him into riding motorcycles. That's something I could do selfishly as a father-son thing. I'm like, I want to take him to Sturgis with me. He's 19 years old. I'm like, that would be cool. So that kind of stuff is really important to me. And we go to the gym together, work out, that kind of stuff.
Nice. That's awesome, man. What's one book that you have read lately that made a huge impact?
I recently read Atomic Habits, and I just by Cal Newport, and I read another one called The $100 Million Offer by Alex Hormozy. Both of those were really good.
I got to read the Atomic Habits. I have the $100 million offer from Alex Hormozy. I got to read it. Some people keep. My assistant actually told me about the Atomic Habits. She read it and she told me that it was an awesome book. Dude, before we close out, you have an event coming up, right?
I just did that event. I've got another one coming up after first of the year, but I just did a big mastermind. It was a 3-day event here in Houston with Bradley, Iron Cowboy, and Dr. Kevin Oko. He's Nick Saban's mindset coach. So I did an event, all of them, and entrepreneurs mindset. But I do a lot of coaching. I'm pretty busy. I'll be in Vegas. I don't know when this will air, but I speak for the National Association of Property Managers. So I'm a keynote speaker at stuff. I do a lot to try to give back. So I'm always somewhere.
I love it, man. Love it. We'll put the links to your website and everywhere people can find you, Steven, here at the end on the bottom of the show notes for everyone to learn more about you and get the appropriate coaching if they really want to scale their business.
Yeah, man. Look, at the end of the day, I'm no different than anyone else. I'm not smarter than anyone. I'm not a better pilot. I'm not nothing. I just take action and I don't give a shit what people think because I have to care more than anyone else for myself. That's why I get people calling me and they're like, you know what? You seem like a real guy. I'm like, I am a real guy. Like I'm in the heat of battle too. Like I'm doing it also. Like I fly trips. I deal with stuff. I deal with crew scheduling, but I do it from a different lens and I do it from a different perspective. And I think that's the difference.
I agree. And I love that, man. That's what attracted me to you. You must have messaged long time ago. And the only reason why we connected is because I saw that you were in business and you were an airline pilot. And that just quickly just linked me to you. And I said, oh, man, I got to get to know about this guy. And I started following you. And this must have been like a year ago. And so, yeah, man, I think that's what probably resonates with a lot of people as well. You know, that you're real, you're the real guy, you're there. You don't think you're better than anybody else, but yet you are.
I love it, man.
So that was awesome. Steve, it was awesome having you on the show, man.
Thank you, Saj. Appreciate it. And for everyone watching, I appreciate it as well. And if you want to see where I'm going and traveling, obviously, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see a lot of my stuff, destinations, speaking stuff and everything. And like I said, it's all about abundance and helping other people. And if I can help give back to the flying community, I'd love to be a part of that.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Thank you.
If you want to never miss another one of your kids' practice games, spend more time with your family, or simply do more of what you really like to do aside from flying, grab my book where I explain in detail everything you need to know to make this a reality. Go to bernhardcapital.net/ebook and download my book. It's completely free and I hope you like it.